Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We want to briefly look at the introduction into the Epsilon software solution, covering Family Society grant. This is the model designed for Hope Mechanized Family Society. For the kind of business they do, in brief, it involves giving free grants of products to Family Society, that is a cooperative unions from various parts of the country that requires support in terms of initial grant of products that will grow over a period of time so that they will stand on their own and also manage the business with the setup grant that will be given by Hope Mechanized Family Society. From what we have on the screen here, we've diagnosed the process and come up with something very simple which can further be developed for the company to manage the data. The first part of it here is where they need to upload voluminous data. Instead of entering the data into the system one after the other, we have created what we call data upload. Under this data upload, a flat files, which ordinarily means an Excel file or a notepad, any flat file whatsoever that we're going to give the guidelines on how to populate the files. First, we will be specific that we prefer a CSV file, that's command delimited, which will give the arrangement of the data so that once that file is located in a particular part of the system which we have defined, then we can call it up from here and load the file into a temporary table. From that temporary table is where we're going to load into the system to the permanent table. And what do we mean by that? If you look at the screen here, load flat files, if you click on it, it brings this. So we're going to define all the various data that we want to upload automatically to the system. From what I have here now, we have the field design, beneficiary details. This refers to individual member of a cooperative union that we're going to give a grant to. So the details is uploaded from here. Cooperative position can be uploaded from here. Generally, we have designed this to assist in uploading voluminous data into the system, and we're going to give guidelines on how that is done. Now, outside this, we have the real processing of the files that we have loaded below, and this processing is where the data will be processed and put in the permanent table. When I say table, the permanent record in the database. This part is what will treat that. Now, what happened is that we use temporary table because we are going to do some validation on that record before we load the permanent table to be sure that the data is clean and is in the right order that we're expecting. We'll go into details of all this later. So the same thing here, you can see you can load beneficiary data into permanent table here. Cooperative position can be done from here, and so on and so forth. Let's also leave this and then look at other provisions that we have done. The next one is after loading the file, then here we can view the result of what we have loaded. And what do we do here? We check whether all the files, all the records in the files are loaded successfully. During this view, you'll be able to see if any one of the files has failed and the reason why it failed. So all you need to do is correct it and then upload all over again. Looking at this now, nothing has been loaded. Zero loaded, zero failed, so that there's no, okay, sorry. There are number uploaded successfully, 3. Failed, 0. Total number of records, 3. That shows that we loaded this successfully. Now, let me see whether I can see a sample record where we have some records that failed. And then let's see whether our system will tell us why they failed. The same thing, 05 was loaded in this case. Total number failed, 5. And we loaded only 5 records. So what do? We move to the next place, click details, which will give us why they failed. Now, looking at the screen now, we have athlete, status, and then number of records. No error code. All these ones failed with no error code. Well, these are just test data. We'll get to know how it's done and how they react. I mean, how it's done, the uploading, and then how we react to the upload when we view the result. Now, then this one is just to run your end of business, close of business every day. That's what it's meant for. I won't go to this for now. This is the first part of the solution we are providing for Hope Mechanized Farming. The next one is this part where all the parameters are defined. What are we talking about here? We're talking about defining the various data group that we need to be able to run our businesses. I'll start from this group code. This one is specifically used to group various products that will grant our customer. Let me take an example. For people that are into poultry farming, let's assume they deal with birds, they deal with turkey, they might even be dealing with pig, and so on and so forth. This group is for convenience of our accounting. We'll get to know that later. So we'll group them together so that in one page we can see what is the value of what we have done relating to a particular group, birds. We can group together chicken and turkey as birds. We can group together somebody that's deal with pig, fish, let's say ram or goat. All of them group together as animals. We can also group together plants. Things like if you give people seedlings like maize or millet or guinea corn, you can also group together cash crops, kola nut, cocoa, and so on and so forth. So the grouping is where is what we define here. Identity mode. This is to define the various identity that's acceptable to us by any of the beneficiary of our product. And what do we mean by various identity? It's like when a customer comes to us for grant, we need to take identity of that customer. So for identity purposes, we need to say what is the valid identity. So we need to define them so that every user of the system cannot just be tapping anything. We can do a standard of, say, international passport. We'll define it here. You can say standard of driver license. We define it here. So that when a user is doing transaction with a beneficiary, all they need to do is to select whatever he has chosen as the form of identity from the system. These are what we define in this place. Now the same thing here, manufacturer master. This is just what we call manufacturer or supplier. Whoever is supplying the products we are going to be giving out to us. We can also define them in the system for references purposes. Because for whatever reason, we might need to reach them We need to know their address, we need to know their phone number. Then we need to know who and who we are dealing with. Because at times, even when they give us product, we might need to offer them a receipt and so on. Because they supply us the items that we are giving out to beneficiary. Then grant type. This is basically to define what type of grant. Remember, I got to understand that the first time the grant is free. The beneficiary, we are giving them free whatever we are giving out. But if the person is come back the second time, he might come back to buy the product from us. I've been in the process of expanding. In that case, we are going to have different type of grants. The one that is free, the one that is not free, and whatever we can think of, we can define everything from here. Then the next level is this product. What are those items that we give out? This is where we define them. So, like I was mentioning, grouping at that time, any product we're giving out, like day-old chicken, day-old turkey, fingerlings, and so on and so forth. All of them are defined here. So at any point in time, we know what we offer, and we know attributes of that product. If I open this, you will see what is defined on it, but that's not the purpose now. The purpose to take us through what we have done. We can go into details after. The next thing is project type. This is where we define the various projects that our beneficiary are into. Whether the person is into poultry farming, into fish farming, animal husbandry, is into cash crops, and so on and so forth. This is what we call project type. Then cooperative unit. This is where we define all the various cooperatives from which beneficiary will come from. So at least we have to assume that those people that are going to deal with us, they belong to one cooperative unit or the other, and they have executive. So the unit, all the various cooperatives are defined at this place called cooperative unit. And lastly, we have general ledger. This is accounting. This one takes care of all the various accounting that we're going to have here. Like if I want to be specific now, remember I mentioned group code. For any reason, if we define birds as a group, what it means is that for every day-old chicken, day-old turkey, and every other thing that falls under birds from a grouping, the value of what we have, when we say what we have, I mean the value of what we're going to give her that we have in store. An account will represent it from here, and that account will tell us the value of that thing in terms of stock. That is, when we buy, what is the value of those things? If you are selling, what is value we're going to derive if you are selling? So we're going to have a stock account, we're going to have a sale account, we're going to have income account, and so on and so forth. All those things are defined under general ledger. I'll go into detail later. So these are definition of what we're going to be using to run our business. Then the next thing is, what is the business itself? That's what we call services. Here, so far we are going to have more, but we've only defined two. One, every customer, every beneficiary, we kept the data from here, beneficiary data. We're going to get the data of everybody we're going to give grants to, define them at this point, and there are many attributes of that beneficiary we're going to define. We'll be defining from which cooperative unit is from, and so on and so forth. What is his position in that cooperative unit? Is he the chairman? Is it all the various attributes that officer that they can have? We'll define them somewhere, but we're going to select that code for the beneficiary data. The next thing here is product stock. This is where we're going to record stock of all products that we're giving out. As soon as we take delivery, we record it from here. So the system will to update the number of records of such thing within our system, and then each time we grant out, it will update and reduce it, so that when we're about to run out of stock, we also have a message and alert, depending on whatever we have decided that we want. These are the two services so far defined. After this, then we are also going to create an inquiry where you can make an inquiry about the system. That's also here. HMFS inquiry. So far, I've just put 2 inquiries there based on what you have, which is inquiry on general ledger details, inquiry on general stock details. If I click on these stock details now, the only thing you can see there so far now is the product, the name, short name, the product full name, the branch, that's outlet of our company, and then the name of that outlet, and then quantity of stock of this item that we have. What do you have in stock for this item? So if I scroll to the end, the other thing I have there is just the unit price of the item. So this is an inquiry based on what we have created in the system for this product. So let's go out and look at the general ledger, how it's going to look like. Though there are many other data on that general ledger, but let's just see how it looks like and how rich it can be. I will go to the level or the particular columns that have to do with Hope Mechanized farming. So I will scroll down. Okay, that's clicking on details. Let me go and scroll down. So if I scroll down until I get to something close to what I'm looking for, that's one of our general ledger that I've defined and what that general ledger is warehousing. So this kind of information that general ledger is going to give us at any point in time. All these things you are seeing here are not for Hope Mechanized farming, the other products that we have in this system. But by the time we deploy the system for Hope Mechanized farming, it's only your record that you see there. All these other records will go off. This is our development, and that's what we're using for everything. So I'm going to take an example here. Stock. If you look at this, stock account for birds. If I scroll to the side, the total amount there in our stock is this amount, whatever billion it is. Now you can break it down further to know what constitutes that amount by clicking on the details. This is stock account for birds. We click on details. It tells us what to have there. So there are 2 records. The stock that were taken as at 14th August 2021, as at 13th September 2021. These are the records. This is the amount. This is the account. So what we are saying is that anytime we deal with general ledger is only looking at value of what we have in our system, either stock or sales or income. It's in terms of money, naira and kobo. So far, this is what we have. I just want us to use this to review whatever I'm able to present before we finish the entire product. Like I said, there's another room for modification of the definition that we have done at this stage. Anytime we do definition of our product, which is under here, then we can always modify when necessary from this place. That is not yet developed, but that will come later. But before we go live, everything that we can allow for modification will be made available here, so that we can also modify them as far as needed. This is the summary of the short introduction of what we have done so far. We hope and believe that we've been able to present to you what it is, so that by the time you go through this, after our physical presence, you'll be able to refresh and also try to understand whatever we have discussed during the interaction. Thank you very much for listening. It's a pleasure being with you. Bye.